Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hey kids, I'm Mike.
I'm PJ.
And today we're going to discuss the state of music and along the way, the best singers and drummers. And to help us out, we have my very good friend, Mr. Rob Lettuce. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Hi kids, I'm Rob.
All right. Let me tell you a little bit more about my man Rob Lettuce. So Rob is an eccentric, enigmatic, rare erudition. Or so he would like to believe. Perhaps he just loves words that start with E. Perhaps he takes umbrage with the fact he is bordering on a midlife crisis. Either way, he's a licensed acupuncturist, fiction writer, singer-songwriter, drummer, and avid reader of philosophy, psychology, and fantasy. He is nothing if not consistently inconsistent, except for the belief that Nietzsche is a plague on society. Also, that Mike Portnoy was always better than Mike Mangini for Dream Theater, who had exactly zero memorable drum parts, possibly because Mangini's snare sounded like a trash can lid. Take that how you will. So, Rob making a big statement, kicking us off. And to let the folks know at home, I was in a band with Rob for years. If some of our loyal listeners from some of our earlier episodes, our intro song was one of our single, Daydreaming. And when we met Rob as a singer, it was quite destiny, because for any local bands out there, finding a good singer is probably the most difficult part. You know, drummers, guitar players, bass players, they're a dime a dozen, but finding someone who can actually sing is hard. So when we found Rob, it was a blessing.
Well,
so
you say that, but finding a bass player that actually stays in the band,
right, but
who isn't a failed guitar player with us.
Right. Mm-hmm. But guys, I'm excited because we're going to talk about some great singers, great drummers, and of course the state of rock and just music in general, guys. So, guys, I'm going to start off with this. I have a surprise question to start things off, all right? Because I feel like right now there's a resurgence of rock. Creed's coming back. Blink-182 is back, right? Oasis has returned. The brothers have made peace. And now also, Linkin Park is back. So, my question, guys, is... Now, I'm hoping you guys have heard the new single. I think it's called Enigma Machine, or... No, that's the Emptiness Machine. But no, in all seriousness, just replacing a guy like Chester Bennington, huge. What do you guys feel about it? Because it's been 7 or 8 years, which is crazy. Time has passed that much.
Yeah, when I realized how long it was the other day when they announced this new singer, I'm like, wow, I can't believe he's been gone that long.
Yeah.
I also realized I can't believe I don't care that they've been gone that long.
Right. Do you know they are the best-selling band of the new millennium?
I believe that.
I always thought it was Coldplay to be in terms of a rock band, but it's actually Linkin Park.
That's stretching the definition of a rock band.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if I call Coldplay a rock band.
Right, but
I call elevator music. You ask me.
Right. Yeah, I know. I agree. But for real, guys, what do you guys think about replacing some? Because there's other been replacement singers since, AC/DC, Alice in Chains, for instance. So,
ZZ
but this
Top
is
actually just did as well. But
right.
There was a plan in place with ZZ Top specifically.
Right. But still, this is the vocals of the band, especially Linkin Park. Look, and we all know that Mike Shinoda, very kind guy, helps write the songs. As a rapper, I'll say he's fine. I'm being generous there, but Chester, though, was the man. He really made the group,
I think the new singer sounds awful.
Really?
I didn't like her. I didn't like her at all. And it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a female or anything like that.
Right, or she's a Scientologist, supposedly. I don't care about any of that stuff, too.
I just didn't think she sounded great.
Mm-hmm.
I can't bring myself to listen to the single. At first, when a new single dropped on there, I was under the assumption, because I didn't even know that they had replaced him to that degree, which is a word I don't even care for necessarily, but I thought it was an AI thing, because there have been instances in which they've taken...
Yeah.
So yeah. I didn't even recognize it as something that was real, but all of whatever controversial issues there are with her aside, when you're replacing someone who has as legendary a status as Chester Bennington, you're going to come into some significant criticism. And it's not like, the band was together for how many years?
I know.
This isn't like, and it's not a revolving door of
members.
And like in a lot of bands, it's basically one member left, and so when they replace someone, it's whatever. This is not that.
Right.
And he's so intrinsic to their sound and who they are that you're going to have people that are going to get upset, and by default, she's going to get compared directly to him. There's going to be an expectation that she can sing his stuff, if not exactly like him, but comparable enough. And it's just, I don't know. I don't particularly care for. It's not something that I'm interested in pursuing because of what my opinion of was the band before.
Right.
I'm not really interested in listening to it with a new person at this time. Not because of her specifically, just...
Right.
I actually think it was a good idea that they went with a female.
I was just about to ask you that, PJ. I was just about to ask you.
I think it would have given them an opportunity to have a different sound, but they didn't. She's trying and failing, in my opinion, to have the same sort of sound, almost like what you were saying. And if they would have just had her sing in her own style and wrote songs that kind of fit her voice, maybe it would have been better. But then it's not. Then maybe it's not Linkin Park, and maybe that's the problem.
Well, that would be my other point. Then I have no problems with them continuing making music and doing anything like that. Of course, it's free to do whatever they want to do, but don't call it Linkin Park because it's not.
Right.
But what about Alice in Chains? You know, because I love
I have
Rob.
never listened
Was it
to
William
a
Duvall?
single album of Alice in Chains since the singer.
What?
In fact, as much as I love Alice in Chains, I really love 2.5 albums from them.
Right, yeah.
I've never really listened to Facelift. I've really only listened to Dirt and Jar of Flies, primarily. One song off of the album after that. I don't know. I think when you take someone that is iconic to that degree and you bring someone else in there, it's kind of like a lesser version of what the original project was. With some small exceptions. Obviously, you brought up AC/DC before, but I mean, I can tell the difference between Bon Scott.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people can't, you know.
Right.
And they put out the same album like 13 times anyway. So
Right, yeah. They're definitely a band of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, so...
Sure. But Back in Black is also... The songwriting was so good on Back in Black, like, and there's so many hits on that anyway, that I almost prefer the second half of their career anyway. But that's the exception to the rule, I would say, in most circumstances.
Yeah. I love Alice in Chains, like, post, Lane. I love those albums are great. Like, Jerry Cantrell. You got to listen to it, man. What was it? Oh, my God. I can't think of the album. Oh, Foggier Rain, or Rain in Your Fog. Awesome. I mean, that whole album, every song's a banger. Gotta give it a try, man. It's a little bit more metal. Less grunge, more metal.
But I mean, if you go through the history of singers being replaced, not even necessarily.
No, it's tough, man. It's
not
tough.
Even necessarily for death. Like think of like a Black Sabbath, where you had Ozzy, and then you replace Ozzy with Dio, and I'm more partial to Dio than I am partial to
because he's a better singer and actually sings things that aren't just following the guitar melody.
Yeah. So, and I've seen Dio live a ton of times with different versions of the band, whether it was as Dio or as Heaven and Hell. And I think Dio is, like you said, leaps and bounds better than listening to Ozzy. I would prefer to listen to those albums. However, the majority of the world would probably tell you that Sabbath is better with Ozzy, and I don't know if that's because that's who started it.
Oh, I have a good one.
Or if it's because he's just such an icon as who he is. But no one will ever convince me that Dio wasn't better for that band.
You know what? That's a good point, and you could look at Van Halen.
I was just about to say that.
I knew it when you said that. Because Sammy Hagar isn't actually a singer.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I love the songs better with him.
With Sammy Hagar?
Yeah.
I think they're for me they're like two. It's like Jekyll and Hyde, where like with Roth they're more like cartoonish. The songs are more like crazy and like where I feel like when they got him, they took the song a little bit more. So I think they wanted to take it more seriously.
Well, however many times he can squeal in a song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, Hagar was a better singer. They do have some very good songs with him afterwards, but it's like different eras. But with those replacements, they were there for a long time too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're trying to judge something right now with Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Something that just happened.
Very small sample size of what
Yeah.
this person's going to sound like.
I mean, if she's going to be staying in there, if it's something that they're going to continue, if they ignore because there's been a lot of negative backlash.
Yeah.
I think it probably wouldn't be able to really judge whether it was successful or not, or whether it was a good idea for at least a few years. I would assume.
Oh yeah, it's been like almost
But-
close to a decade. Yeah.
But I don't know if I can bring myself to listen to it.
Now, I'm
Yeah.
not a music guy where I don't play music, I don't sing, I don't have any of those abilities, right? But I listen to music. But you guys have the background of being in a band. If you replace your singer, right, and then
Right.
the immediate reaction is everyone in the universe like just uniting and saying,
Yeah.
well, this was a terrible fucking decision. What does that do to the rest of the members of the band who agreed that this was the person? Do they feel like, oh my god, we made such a big mistake, we've ruined our legacy, we need to get rid of this chick immediately? Like, what goes through their mind when they see all this negative attention to a decision that they had to put a lot of thought into?
I think, especially with nowadays with the internet, you're always going to get, just like our podcast, people more likely to comment negative than positive. So I think that's just kind of the nature of life. I don't know. I don't really think. I think they just want to keep performing. I think replacing Chester was hard. I think getting a female was a smart move. It gives them a new identity. I think it would have been harder for her if it was another guy. Honestly, no question. I think a girl. I think if she didn't have all this other behind the scenes crap, I think it would have been less. Honestly, a little bit less scrutiny on her. But
I mean, I think it probably has as much a big impact on the singer as it does the rest of the band, because, I mean, when you're talking about, especially with performance on stage, so much of your ability to do that correctly has to do with confidence. And if you have everybody telling you that the band made a mistake bringing you in there and that you're terrible, people tend to go one of two ways with that. Either you crumble under it and then you underperform, you're very nervous, and when you're nervous as a singer and it tightens up your vocal cords, you don't sound good, you lose a certain semblance of control, you have these squeaks, and then when you start hyper focusing on those mistakes and it becomes obvious on stage that you're making mistakes, it goes downhill pretty fast. Or you have some people, and the band can look at this too, as more of a challenge. Oh no, now we're going to prove to you why we made the right decision. So it probably depends upon the individual personalities within the band and who's, you have to ask who is the actual band leader. Because in most bands you get enough members like that, one person is generally making more of the decisions than the rest. There's probably one person that's banging the table for bringing the person in. Like, this is the person.
yeah.
So you'd have to see what the makeup is of that particular person to kind of answer that question.
Yeah, and I agree with the whole confidence thing. I saw Queen with Adam Lambert. Now he
I've
wasn't
seen
a
him
replacement.
also, yeah.
And during I'll say maybe third song in, Adam Lambert went he goes I'm sure a lot of you out there are saying well, he's no Freddie Mercury. He's like, well, no shit. He's like, I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to replace Fred. I'm here to celebrate his music with these other guys, Roger and Brian, you know what I mean? So I think you have to take it as that. And I don't think Linkin Park is trying to necessarily replace Chester. I think they're just trying to say, hey, we're going to move on. This is our next stage, kind of like a Van Halen. That was part one of our history, and this is the next chapter, They have a right to keep continuing making music.
Sure.
Well, the Queen thing, I think, is a little different, because this is not the first time they've had someone else
Oh,
sing the
yeah.
song. And I don't think they bill it as just Queen.
Yeah, it's
usually
Adam
Queen
Lambert plus. Yeah.
Right.
No, I know.
So I think that's the right way to do it for some of these big name bands, because
Right.
you're not saying we've replaced
Right.
Freddie. We're not saying you've replaced whoever.
Yeah.
It's the band plus this person. I think it's a little bit of a cop out to do it that way, but I also think it sets a better expectation for fans.
Yeah.
Look, we know.
Right.
You're up front about it. We know. We didn't
Right.
replace the guy. I think.
Yeah.
I think that makes it more palatable for people. But if we're going to talk about music before we get into the rest of this, there is one other big music story going on right now. Mr. Diddy.
Oh.
The diddler.
P. Diddler is really... I mean, every day, it almost feels like you hear another just crazy thing that this guy did. And when you look at how many celebrities were, at those parties...
Yeah.
There's a possibility in a couple of weeks there's no more music or movies. Everyone's done. Diddy took down an entire Hollywood industry.
Right. Yeah.
And I just think it's wild how, like, just how that's
Yeah.
been unfolding. And I don't know,
Yeah.
all the baby oil in the world.
Right.
I mean, it's just a wild story. And
Right.
it's strange. Like, I just don't think I knew he was that creepy.
It seems like other people knew, but the fact that Costco had to come out and say that he did not buy in bulk at our store is one of my favorite parts of the entire thing. I don't even know where to begin with this particular topic because there's so many people involved, and the stories are so disturbing on a level that just. But I mean. It's probably, and I guess the more disturbing thing about this is that this is probably a little more commonplace than we'd like to believe.
Yeah.
And people are just starting to get caught doing it. Or rather, caught in a way that consequences seem to be happening.
I mean, you just look every day, you see all these people deleting all their old tweets, and it's people you don't even expect to see delete these tweets after they're getting named. I think I read somewhere that Pink was one of the people that are deleting.
Yeah.
In my mind, I have zero way of drawing a line from Diddy to Pink, and yet somehow that seems to be happening.
Right.
So how deep does this go where it's just like
Right.
everyone in the music industry appears to have gone to a Diddy freak off?
I think
And
I will say, like Rob said, like it's scary to really come to realization like stuff like this happens more often than we like to believe. And the other part is like they're in a different world. Like people who make a lot of money, they're in a different world. We're in our own class.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like we just all live in different worlds. You know what I mean? That's why I like start like celebrities or like politicians. I want to like I'm just like you. I'm like, have you ever mowed your own lawn before? Like you lived your whole life with maybe like a butler. You know what I mean? Let's say, or how do you know about mowing a lawn? Like how could you even relate to me? Or people make, like a Britney Spears. She knows nothing about like hanging out in a parking lot like 12 o'clock with their friends on their BMX.
Right.
Like they don't know that life. So like they're just in their own world. So I'm trying to say it's like they just think when you have money you can just pay your way out of everything. And like now with the internet, I guess one of the blessings of the internet, I guess you could say, is like it's cancel culture. I mean, we always lived in this since the dawn of time. We've had a cancel culture. Believe it or not, we had a shame culture. It's just now we use the internet to do it. But anyway,
I mean, for like a million years, everyone has shit on Justin Bieber. Like it's just been the thing to do since he showed up on Ellen.
Right.
The thing to do is shit on Justin Bieber, and now I'm like that poor dude. Like, I just feel bad for the guy, and I've never had a good thing to say about him. I've always made fun of him. It's just. I
get it because he's like he's a baby face. He's a pop singer.
And now
girls,
like, this poor guy showed up on Ellen one day, and the next thing you know, he's getting diddled and
allegedly.
I don't know. I really don't even know what to make of something like this. I mean, you're definitely right about this being everybody in their own world there. And even if they, you can ask the question, have you ever mowed your lawn? But even if someone started that way, you live in that life.
Yeah, I'm just, just like.
And you forget.
Oh.
That whole.
Oh, yeah.
Like even something as simple as understanding the cost of groceries. Or like there's no concept of that. You think they're going to understand the concept of consent?
Yes. Yeah.
There's this gross assumption that happens with these figures that hold themselves up like deities, where everybody wants to see them. It's not just that they can't say no; it's that they would love to throw themselves at this person's feet. Like it's a privilege for people to be there and to show up to these kinds of things. It's just the ego is amazing to me. Not amazing in a good way, but amazing that they can look at other human beings as something so lesser than what they are.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I never went to a Diddy white party because I don't like to wear all white, so I turned down the invitation. And I am so glad that I did that because I tend to spill a lot and I didn't want to dirty my suit, my white suit. So I didn't go. And thank God, could you imagine the Cool Kids lunch table would have been brought down if I was not averse to wearing an all white suit.
Yeah.
It's a slippery situation.
But to bring it back we're talking about. Let's talk about back to some of the more positive. So, Rob, who's some of your name a favorite, one of your favorite drummers or singers that you think is important to music. It has to be a rock. I'm just talking about it in any form.
Well, as far as the drummers, see, when I like to use the word favorite as opposed to best, because I think you can get into some weird hot water when you say, well, this is the best person.
Yes, no,
it's
of
like
course.
listening to reading Rolling Stone's 100 guitar, 100 according to who?
Right. Yeah.
How are you rating? Who's
I
good and
hate
who's
those
not?
lists anyway.
But for some of my favorite drummers or most influential, I mean, I would have to say Bonham. Would absolutely
no
have to
question.
be one of them. And Portnoy was definitely one because I bought my first Dream Theater album on a whim, and it was live from Budokan, by the way.
That's unbelievable.
The very first one, because I saw the cover of I had that little soft cover.
Yeah.
Double album on that one, which was great. Also, one of Porcupine Tree's drummers, Gavin Harrison, in particular, for the way in which he would play. Those are definitely among, and also Mastodon's drummer, Brand Daler. What I like when I'm looking at drummers in particular are those that when you hear them, you know it's them.
Oh yeah.
Which is harder to do than you'd think because
every
every drum beat has been done already at a certain point. You're just rearranging.
Yeah. Well, look at Linkin Park real quick. I don't want to pick on that. He's not even in the band anymore. He essentially quit.
Yep.
But that guy's talk about robotic. You know what I mean? Like, completely replaceable. No offense to that guy.
Well, it's funny. It seemed, except in certain circumstances, it's easier to replace the drummer than it is to replace the singer. As far as, but it depends. It depends. But also what situation the drummer is in. Because on my list, I thought about this for a while, but Matt Cameron with Soundgarden.
Oh, absolutely.
Matt Cameron with Pearl Jam.
Oh,
is
no.
Whatever.
Oh, yeah. He's like neutered. Yeah.
At that point. And I don't know what the difference is necessarily, just the chemistry between them.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it just because Pearl Jam is a chore to listen to?
Yeah, that could be.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because I put that band on, and I just like there are some songs that I think. Oh yeah. But Pearl Jam has some songs I generally do love. Yeah. But the majority of their catalog, I'm like, I don't know what he's saying. I don't care what he's saying. Yeah. It's all very much a monotone sound from him, and he's not my favorite performer. And I wonder if it's just that style of music. Is that why he doesn't come across as good in that band? Is it just that band?
It could be. It could be. I mean, of the grunge bands, like the big four, Pearl Jam is definitely the most jam band of the rest of them, a bit. So, I mean, I think that style does lend itself to just holding a steady beat as opposed to being a little bit more unique. And they're a little more guitar oriented too. Like they'll actually play guitar solos.
They're the bluesiest side of the.
Soundgarden doesn't there are guitar solos, but they're not traditional solos. I mean, Kim Thayil is all over the place with the way that he plays them. So you could almost argue that the drums become something of a lead instrument in Soundgarden, and that's not the case for Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
It's just not the style of music that is. Even though they're both grunge bands, they're very different. So, you know what? Now that you say that, I don't fully disagree with it. You may take umbrage with the fact that it's my least favorite of the. Be Pearl Jam at the bottom of my list.
Yeah. They'd be at the bottom of mine too when it comes to the grunge sound. I have a favorite drummer actually, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not someone who can pick someone out of a lineup when it comes to musicians or anything.
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, man.
But I always never know if I'm saying his name right. Mickey D, or is it Mikey D, from Motorhead.
Oh, okay.
Now he has been in several of my favorite bands. He was the drummer for King Diamond.
Okay.
He was the drummer for Motorhead. So I love both of those two bands. I think King Diamond has put out some albums that are generally amazing, genuinely amazing, but people don't listen to that kind of music, especially now the way they did then.
Yeah.
People don't necessarily hear it, but those albums tell a story in a way where you can listen to the song on its own, and it's a song where you start from beginning to end, and it's a story. And I love that band, and I think he was part of it, and I think that's good. Motorhead is my favorite band of all time. And I think they've had several drummers, but I noticed him more on when he was with the band than when other drummers were with the band. And he's also with the Scorpions right now, which is, he's definitely, a rock drummer, a metal drummer. And like I said, I can't pick someone out of a lineup, but I was able to tell the difference with some of these bands when he was there than when other bands weren't.
That's pretty versatile. Scorpions are good. They're pretty, they have some prog in there too,
Yeah.
They have some long-ass songs, so.
Well, I think, and this probably speaks. I mean, we had a conversation a little bit yesterday about how the importance of a drummer in a band. Necessarily, like how much it affects.
Yeah,
behind every great band.
Man, is a great drummer. Yeah,
great drummer. Especially when you see bands that have had a couple of different iterations of drummers, how much it ends up changing the sound of the band as a whole. I mean, like certain bands, like I'll bring up Mastodon again. If you take Daler out of it, they're not Mastodon because nobody plays like that. Like for the most part, where the whole thing is one big fill through the entire song, and yet it doesn't feel repetitive, even though he's doing single stick rolls pretty much the whole song. And it's funny watching the programs like Drumeo where someone coming on and then having to play one of his songs and kind of struggling with it for something that people may listen to as well. It's not this crazy double bass stuff. Yeah, look at the hand speed, or just look at the creativity of how someone puts something together. And again, that it's him.
Yeah.
When the song comes on, that is Mastodon, and maybe for that era of Motorhead, you knew it was that era because he was in it. Right?
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think for me, I'm not surprised I had to put Charlie Watson here from the Rolling Stones. And one of the main reasons is because I think he's a great example of what's best for the song. Charlie's actually a jazz drummer. That guy could run circles if he wanted to. But I think it's important to, like you just said before, like it's amazing how, like you said, Rob, like they're all basically playing the same beats, but it's those nuances and that groove. And it's like Mick Jagger wouldn't be able to run around if it's any other drummer. Because I saw a clip when he passed away. They had their new drummer Steve Jordan. They did like a small club show, and they seemed off because it's a whole different groove, But one of the things I love about Charlie, and I feel it's the most difficult thing for a drummer to do, in my opinion, when it comes to playing songs, writing songs, it's actually writing drum parts for ballads.
Wow.
I think writing drums for ballads is probably the most difficult thing, and I think Charlie excels at it. Songs like Angie and Almost Hear You Sigh and Out of Tears. I mean, there's countless songs, but I think he's really exquisite with it. And I think ballads is really tricky. Is hard to play. Like for instance, this isn't a shot at Ringo. Ringo's is I think one of my favorite drummers, Ringo Starr. But I don't really like the drums in Let It Be, for instance. So
I don't know that I've ever noticed.
Right, but I'm just saying this. I mean, there's so many, and it doesn't make or break a song to drum for a ballad, but like, it's really difficult to really, really bring out the softness of that song, and just to kind of go a little bit more, someone like a Dave Grohl, where like, I think one of the most important things Nirvana's ever done was the Unplugged album, because everyone thought they were just a band that made noise, and then that whole performance showed how they can actually write songs. And his playing, though, very delicately. If you ever see Dave Grohl when he's playing drums, he's like a madman. He's like Animal, But that show, very beautifully played, very it's exquisite, and it really heightened it. You know what I mean? And he's just the master of dynamics. But I really feel like Charlie, he excels with just keeping that groove, that 4 on the floor, and especially like I said, ballads. Very tricky for drummers, in my opinion. Very tricky, very hard. To do.
I see what you're saying, especially on the softer parts. One of my favorite, more extreme prog metal bands, Opeth, and they've had 4 different drummers. It was their second one, Martin Lopez, who was on a lot of their more iconic early stuff when he was still growling a lot more. But his ability to play lightly during, because they actually have some songs that are I wouldn't call them ballads, but they're bordering on much lighter things. And his ability to play around that and not just extreme is one of the things that shows that kind of versatility. And I can see what you're saying, when it comes to ballads and the drums. I think to make them stand out and not just be some background piece in the song is pretty difficult. And I would actually give, and pardon for not knowing his name, the drummer for oh no, it's gonna exit my brain right as I say it. I'm gonna remember.
What band?
Sunday Bloody Sunday.
You two.
Thank you.
Larry Mullen Jr. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I actually give him some credit.
Absolutely.
As well. His ability to not take over the song.
Yeah.
To play just the right thing, because they have a ton of ballads.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no question. PJ's buzz one. PJ's like, that's PJ's kryptonite.
I'm not saying. So to be fair on this, I was not a fan of them. Until I had to cover that song with them. It was one of the first requirements to join the band was to learn that song. So I've come to appreciate them a bit more. I wouldn't put them on, but
fair.
Yeah. All right.
But one last thing. I'm curious to hear what you guys feel about this too. Is like indie rock. I'm not a big fan of indie or today's indie or folk, whatever you want to call it. I think one of the reasons why I can't get into it is I think the drums, something about them, I don't know what, because look, let's be real, indie rock tends to be a little bit more softer, right? I like a little bit more hard rock, okay? So that's a part of it, but the other part is, I think a lot of it is the drums. I don't know if it's like, it's too busy, or even they're trying to, I don't know what's going on, like they're just trying to do too much in a song that's slow, or I don't know, but I'm just curious what you guys think. For me, indie rock, I feel like the drums, for me, like, I'm like, yeah, the whole thing just doesn't.
I feel like when it comes to something like an indie rock, a lot of the time,
I don't know.
Aside from the singing and the guitar, everything else is sort of an afterthought. It's just, that's what it is.
That's true. That's true. I think they just add things, that genre of music,
Because I almost feel like they just add some extra stuff in the background, because if they are going to play a show, they just want to have a band behind them.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's the main focus of that kind of music.
Yeah.
I would have to listen to some examples because I couldn't even tell you.
Like the Lemon Twigs, they're good. I think they're from Hicksville. Yeah, I like them. Actually, like when they perform live, then I do the recordings. But like, I feel like someone's always like, I don't know what it is. It just, I feel like something, and I just, for me, my brain goes, I think it's the drum. Something with, that's, the songwriting could be very good, for instance. Like, I think they're excellent songwriters, those two. But I don't know if it's the drums. And they play all, they switch all instruments. They play all the things.
Drums are, when you're trying, I think one of the things with indie sometimes is people are trying very hard to be different or to be counterculture. And drums, you can sound very bad if you're trying to sound very different in a way that doesn't actually fit the music that you're playing. You have good instances of people playing very odd things like Bill Bruford with King Crimson with an album like Indiscipline. Really difficult to play, a strange thing. He barely hits a cymbal in the entire thing. It's mostly done on the toms. Or you can do it really badly and have it sound super bizarre. Like if you're a fan of Captain Beefheart, some people find that whole thing is just noise to a lot of people. It depends upon how you, or some people love it, but I think that's the thing. How do you make something sound different but still fit a song? And it seems like maybe the indie drummers are having some difficulty with that necessarily.
Yeah. Well said, Rob. Mr. PJ.
Yeah.
Any other drummers or singers, anything you want?
We spoke about so many drummers and we left out maybe, I'm not saying he's the best drummer of all time.
I know you're going to go with this.
Maybe the most iconic drummer of all time, the guy who's put himself out there the most, is Lars.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that guy... As much as James Hetfield is the frontman of Metallica, when you think of Metallica, you think of him singing. Lars is just as much out there. It's his. It's just as much his band as it is anybody else's, if not more. And I don't know. How have we got a whole episode about drumming and we haven't spoken about him?
Lars. So, I'm going to preface this by saying. I'm not the biggest fan of Metallica.
You can just
in saying this,
show's over, kids.
And on that note, the last time I said this at a party about 15 years ago, a man that looked like he was a living Viking held me up by my throat and saying it, and I only got out of it by saying I was also a big Iced Earth fan. So I don't know how that got me out of that, but regardless, the problem that I've always had with Lars in general is that when sitting down to really listen to what he's playing, I don't find it like it feels like it's the same thing over and over and over again. And look, we can pick apart technical ability. You can do that with plenty of things. If someone's playing the right thing that fits the song, it doesn't make sense to play Crazy Fills if that's not what the song is asking for. But I just feel like, much in the same way, I really don't like Keith Moon, who I think was a terrible
I don't like Keith Moon either.
because he couldn't play in time. He just could not play in time. I sometimes think Lars, especially the second half of their career, has really struggled with that. I don't think his timing is particularly great, and I think there's a stiffness to his playing that there's some like Fuel. I actually love the song Fuel, and there's some of the songs that I really enjoy from them, but it's not for the drums.
That's fair. I think for me, for Lars, as a drummer, I actually like what he plays. I think it's creative. I think it makes you. Metallica would not be Metallica
without Lars.
Absolutely, absolutely not.
Their early stuff. I mean,
yeah,
that guy was fast as fuck.
Yeah.
He was. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think he's just as important to their sound as anybody else. You can replace a Cliff Burton with a Trujillo, and Metallica continued on. It's fine. You can't. I don't think you can replace Hetfield. I don't think you can replace Lars and still call it Metallica.
Yeah, I just love.
It kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Can you replace You can never replace James Hetfield, right? You just couldn't. It would be Metallica. No. I don't know that you could replace Lars and still call it Metallica.
No, that's probably true. And this is why, in these kind of discussions, I prefer to say favorite drummers, or those that I enjoy, because there's such a subjectivity to that, to what's good and what's not good. I don't care for his playing. It doesn't mean he's a bad drummer.
Right.
Yeah. But it's a distinction that I think sometimes has to be made, because it's too easy for people to say, I don't like it, therefore it's bad. Or he's bad, he can't play.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I just love how his drums sound. I love how his hi-hat is like wobbly. But yeah. But folks, I want to talk about the singer, and I think he's underrated as a singer. I know PJ thinks the band is overrated, but I think he's probably one of the most difficult guys to cover, and that's Mr. Kurt Cobain. I think he's underrated as a singer. I think he's, especially like I said, going back to the Unplugged performance, you really see him truly as a singer. Because other people think of him just screaming, which I think that's not really true.
That's not fair either. To say,
but his songs are tough to sing. And I don't think people realize how low his voice actually is, and how he like pushes it, like even a song like "Come As You Are," even though it's a simple song to play and everything, that's a tough fucking song to sing. Or even "About a Girl," that guy from
Well, look, my favorite song that he's ever sang, I think it was on the Unplugged. Where Did You Sleep Last Night?
Oh,
I mean, I don't. That song, to me, the way they performed it, the way he performed it, is just perfect.
Haunting
is a perfect word for it. It was done great, and I don't know that someone else could have sang that and got that sort of feeling out of it other than him. Yeah. I think the band overall is overrated, only because they weren't around that long to just make the contributions that they have. That's the reason why I say they're overrated.
No, I know.
They're bad.
No, I know.
But I think I think they are overrated. And part of that is just the time they were around. But as a vocalist overall, do I think he's the best? No. Do I think some of those songs that he sang have been fantastic because it was him? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible to say perhaps, but the thing that made them most famous was his death. I don't think they would have been as iconic had he not.
Oh, I don't know about that. I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
It's also the circumstance of his death and everything that came with that. Now, I will say this about, I'm not the biggest Nirvana fan either, but I will say this as well. When, as a singer who's had to cover quite a wide variety of different singers on these, he is difficult to cover. And when you're looking at difficulty for these kinds of things, you can look at something like vocal talent and versatility in someone like Cornell is hard to cover because he has a unique voice too, but he can sing so high and so low. His range is When it comes to Kurt, it's so unique. You have people that are difficult to cover because almost nobody sounds like
exactly.
Them. And you had a lot of people after Nirvana try and mimic that sort of sound.
Of course.
And just kind of like a lazy version.
Of course. Yeah.
So you can look at a singer as being good because much like with drummers, when you hear someone play, you know it's them. There's some singers, like I hear a Nirvana song and I know it's Kurt. There's no mistaking who it is. Whether I like it or not is a different matter, but it is definitively him. And if someone can sing with that much emotion in everything that they do, that's probably a mark of what a good singer is.
Do you remember the band Puddle of Mud?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like I guess you'd call it like post grunge or whatever.
Yeah.
That guy, I always felt like was trying to sound like Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. The band Seether, they're very,
100%.
they're
I feel
really,
like they were trying to sound like him, and they failed because exactly like you said, Kurt sounds like Kurt. He doesn't sound like anybody else. But so it's hard to sound like that or imitate that, and that band went nowhere, right? But here's the thing. I don't think that guy from that band or that band overall was an untalented band.
Oh yeah.
And that is part of the thing where it's like, would Nirvana have been as big as they were if they had kept going? Because I don't not to compare them to them directly, but I'm just saying, like, I think that sound had a very short shelf life. I just think it did. I don't think other than Pearl Jam, who is still going, a lot of those bands kind of fizzled that were in that grunge era. I don't think that sound had the shelf life to be as iconic as people make it.
We'll never know. And I do think Nirvana already had their legacy. I mean, without Smell Like Teen Spirit, you wouldn't have all the bands that we love. They paved the way for them. They changed the whole, not just music landscape, fashion, attitude.
Well, if you want to talk about influence, yes. And that's two distinctly different things. So whether you enjoy a band or not, or whether you thought that they were a good band or not, it's undeniable that of the big four in grunge, that Nirvana was probably the most influential. You can't call someone overrated without accepting how influential they are. It's just a matter of course.
Right.
And so many people cite Nirvana, and Kurt in particular, as one of the reasons that they got into music in the first place. Especially, like, how many guitar players, what's their first song that they learned how to play?
Oh, Ness.
Growing up,
before Smell Like Teen Spirit, Smoke on the Water.
Yeah.
And
So,
it became Smells Like Teen Spirit.
There's only so much you can say about that. But on that matter of singers that are difficult to, one that I had always found that many people have tried to sound like, but have failed quite a bit, is if anybody knows who Jeff Buckley was. And he was just as good live as he was on any particular recording. And it's such a, I can say iconic, but I don't think he's quite as popular as I would like to believe. Because I mention him to a lot of people and no one ever knows who the hell either they really know him or they have no idea as one of those kind of singers. But he was definitely one of the most influential for kind of the vocal acrobatics are one thing, but the ability to shift from something kind of harsh to extremely soft at the drop of a hat with minimal effort was something I'd never really heard before. But that gets into what makes someone a good singer. Like what to either of you guys, what defines someone that is a good singer to you?
Well, Taylor Swift. Right? She's just perfect, right? Her voice is like smooth and velvety, and you hear her sing, and you see her perform, and it just touches your soul. But no, for real, what makes someone a good singer is a really tough question to answer, because I think what makes someone a good singer for one band may not make them a good singer for another.
Touche.
So, my favorite band of all time, I said earlier, is Motorhead. Motorhead, Lemmy is not what you would call a good singer. Yeah. But in that band,
it works.
He's absolutely perfect. What he does, he was perfect at doing. Nobody can sound like Lemmy. No one will ever sound like Lemmy again. And anybody in the metal world, when it's a joke, right? Because it came from the movie, but who'd win in a fight, Lemmy versus God? Trick question. Lemmy is God. But people feel that way about him. And it's not because he's hitting every note in the world, right? But what makes him a good singer is what he did for the band he was in. And I think So I don't know that you could say what makes someone
Right.
a perfect singer or a good singer. I think it depends on what band they're in and what they need to do for that band. For Motorhead, Lemmy is perfect. For Backstreet Boys, Lemmy is not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think for me, being piggyback what PJ said, it's just like some singers don't work in other bands. I agree with that. I think also like I just call it like character. Like they just put a lot of character into their voice. Like Bono. We'll use Bono for instance. So wait.
Look at all the eyes rolling.
Right. But no, but someone like him though, like he has in his youngest days, he's had more of like he sung higher, you know, but like he'll use some falsetto, he'll use more like a deep voice. You know, I really like when singers do that. You know, like they kind of just have character, or like a James LaBrie from like Dream Theater. He could sail. He could be an opera singer if he wanted to. But then he kind of does a low. I always find like a really good singer when their regular talking voice is very good. You know what I mean? Like a Jim Morrison. Ugh. You know, just him speaking sounds. I just feel like a great singer can have so much like character to the voice. Like a Mick Jagger, he could do the falsetto. He could speak real low. He can impersonate like being soulful, black. You know, like I think stuff like that really goes along. Besides, of course, range and technical ability, no question. But a lot of the character, I think, really helps. Really, and I think that's lacking a lot of today's music is that we don't have enough.
We're talking about older bands, right?
Yeah.
But if you, I mean, not that this guy I'm going to say right now is considered new by any stretch, but you want to talk about someone with a really good voice?
Yeah.
John Mayer has a really, really good voice.
Yeah.
Not my style of music.
No question. Yeah, no, that definitely not.
But if we're talking about just someone who has control of
very
their voice
soulful,
and sounds
soulful,
good, I think he
raspy.
sounds good.
I'm always
I think
just
someone like Charlie Puth has a very good voice. Again, not music I would listen to regularly. But
Yeah.
when you talk about someone who just has a good voice and
Yeah.
control over their voice,
yeah, Billie Eilish. I mean, she's
Yeah.
sensational. You know.
I mean, I don't give her any credit because she records the songs 1,000 times and picks the pieces that she likes best from each. If you
I think her
back
brother
it-
does that. I don't think she does
Yeah,
that.
but-
But she's sung live. When she sings live,
I've
you know,
never seen her
she's.
sing live.
No, I didn't see her. But I
if
saw
she
her.
was that good of a
But
singer,
saw
you wouldn't need to take bits and pieces from different cuts to make one good song.
Right.
That's the way I see it.
No, I agree with that. I don't think she needs to. No, she doesn't need to do that. But I've seen her like the last Oscar. She performed a song from the one that's becoming viral now when she plays shows. Meow 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 meow. That she's actually when she's singing that song like what was I made for? The crowd singing meow 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 meow, and she's like it's like almost ruining the whole vibe of that song. It's turning into a goof. But we were gonna say, Rob.
You know, well, I mean, the personality that someone can convey when doing something certainly is such a big part of what singing actually is. Because otherwise, you can just insert and replace whoever. And this was I blame shows like American Idol.
Yes.
The Voice. And all,
Yes.
Because they're just looking for a vocal package that they can write songs for and just
Yeah,
slap onto something.
me and PJ talk about this all the time. One of our past episodes, where like I can't tell the difference between a Dua Lipa, an Ariana Grande,
They're all
and
the
Ariana
same.
Grande is her range is insane, and I feel like she doesn't get
But they all sing
really
the same
beautiful
song.
songs. Exactly. They don't. She's not getting. She really deserves beautiful songs to sing, and she hasn't. Look, I don't know what's right or wrong. I have no clue.
Who knows?
But she like we just said they like you exactly perfect example. Like they just put them like in this fact like all of a sudden Sabrina Carpenter. Who is she? She just popped out of nowhere. I'm yelling, but it's just like I feel like literally overnight
You know why
she
she
is
popped out of
everywhere.
nowhere? All kidding aside.
Who is she though? Like she an actress?
She was an actress. She was on the Disney Channel, and she was on the reboot of Boy Meets World. when they had
Wow.
their kids. And she was a Disney kid, so you know they can sing a little bit.
All right,
and then
yeah.
She leaves Disney and tries to become a thing, and the reason she's so big right now is she opened for Taylor Swift.
Oh.
It's the same reason. What's her face? The other girl with the black hair.
No,
but they're all the
Demi
same.
Lovato?
No.
Someone new right now, you mean?
Someone newer.
Dua Lipa? Her?
No. I'm
Black
not gonna know
hair.
her name. She's
Katy
another-
Perry?
Hold on. I'll just Google it. One moment.
Not another
That's
Selena,
PJ's.
like Selena
Well, we need
Gomez.
Jamie. Where's
Olivia Rodrigo.
Oh, I don't like her. I'm sure she's a nice person in real
No, I
life,
don't know
but
anything about her. But the
but,
reason she came up out of nowhere
that's-
also is she opened for Taylor Swift, and you get that.
yeah,
you get,
that exposure, that
you get the
exposure.
and then
But I
you
mean,
blow
she
up.
like huge. But like you said, Rob, they become like I cannot tell the difference between
They all sound the same.
and I always and this was me
They all
forever.
sound like pop artists.
Yeah.
You used to be able to tell the difference.
Yes,
'cause,
like a Britney Spears, like an
so
Aguilera.
That's exactly the comparison I was going to bring up, and you knew the difference between the two when they would come up. when it came to pop, and so like Fiona Apple, Fiona
Oh,
Apple
yeah.
comes up. I don't want to be one of those like old men yelling at a cloud saying,
Yeah.
"There's music these days," but pop has really taken this turn where
Ooh.
it's so formulaic and so like all the singers are so much the same that I really cannot tell the difference between any of them now.
When Dua Lipa performs, it's almost like she doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's like, I bet you that girl could sing if she really wanted to, and maybe she just does. She just knows this is where the money is, so it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just a cash grab.
No.
But most of them, I don't think they put much into it. They just, this is the pocket we want you to be in. Don't do anything else.
Right.
Well, we've gotten to a point with recordings where, as a singer coming in, you don't. There's studio tricks where people are putting out stuff on a record that they can't really perform live. And that's certainly part of it. And you can take a mediocre voice, but someone that looks the part, and really push them out forward, and you can, with vocal coaches and with all kinds of studio tricks, and make them sound great on a record. And then you stick them in a live performance, and they're not really that great, and they know that they're not that great. And I think we have quite a bit of that where they're looking for a look more so than they're looking for
Right. And I think
talent to sing.
you and I spoke about this yesterday. I think a big problem with music today, or just the industry, is like too much emphasis on perfection. Pro Tools has ruined that. But like you said, a lot of our favorite drummers, for instance, you said there was no metronome back. I mean, there was. Like, sure, there was, but in terms of like in the studio, there wasn't they didn't revolve around that. A lot of it was just live recording. What I'm trying to say is, folks, that we're missing performance in recordings.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem. Even my favorite bands, it sounds different because everyone's like, playing to a click track, and, no matter what genre it is, it just sounds different. I think you're missing. That's why the Stones, for instance, I think Paul McCartney does it too, where like they record live, Of course they do like a scratch vocals, but then but Mick Jagger's literally running around in the studio. They give him like an open space, and he's running around with a microphone. That's what he's doing. Yeah. But it makes a big difference. You can hear the energy.
Well, a lot of the times now you have these people that don't have a band. They're just playing to whatever music track that was recorded. So there's no emotion behind anything. No one can get into what the singer is singing, and the singer can't get into what the band is playing, because they're just not there at the same time.
Yep.
They're just recording their own pieces at any different time. Someone's combining it together, and then they're saying, "Hey, you sing in front of this real quick, so we can record this." It's not the same.
Yeah.
No, it definitely seems to not be the same. But I mean, there's still, I would say, even in modern now, there's still a couple of singers that you definitely know when you hear them. I mean, Ghost is an interesting one, as I'm wearing this shirt. Now we know the singer's Tobias Forge, whatever other projects he was in before that. But I mean, it's a voice, and he's able to perform everything live, that there's a lot of personality to it, because he's embodying this weird, like, satanic personality, but it makes the rest of that interesting. As far as modern singers go, a lot of people don't like Coldplay. I accept that. You can say a lot of the songs can be cookie cutter, especially the later portion of the career. But
so I don't like this later half.
Especially this early stuff. He was. I just think he was a great singer, especially.
Yeah, his character to it. Like I said, character to his voice. His voice is distinctive.
Very much so. But you're getting fewer and fewer of those.
Yeah.
Where the person matters. Bruno Mars. I'll give Bruno Mars that credit.
Yeah, I like how he sings.
He's as good live as he is in the studio, with a good amount of character on stage. But again, with pop, I mean, that's the exception to the rule, and he's been in it long enough now.
Yeah.
We're not talking about anybody that's a flash in the pan right now. It's not like this person's, they just come on and they're great. It's people that have been around for a while. Who's in their early 20s that you can name right now that is an iconic singer at this point? We're like really up and coming like that.
That's Billie Eilish. She's only 21, 20, whatever she is.
I
hate the style.
I think she has a shelf life too, and once that's over, you're not going to.
She needs more rockin' songs, in my opinion.
Well,
but
I don't want to trash Eilish too much.
No, I know. Yeah, I'm not.
That's a style of vocals that I really don't care for. This whisper kind of thing. So many other girls are coming on trying to copy. Much in the same way when
Lana Del Rey and all those other.
Paramore came out. Like there was so many female singers that tried to sound like her afterwards. And it just sounded like this weird whiny thing, and they couldn't sing like she did. But it made a whole bunch of people try to copycat it.
Yeah.
And you're getting that with Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Look, can she probably sing with more power and with a full range?
Yeah.
Probably. She chooses not to. It all sounds the same to me.
I agree.
Like, it puts me to sleep.
I agree.
Into that,
I agree.
that style, personally.
As we're wrapping up, folks, I just want to slightly switch to music genre because we haven't talked about it. It's actually hip hop. I feel like, as they say, I feel like hip hop is dead and hip hop is around, and I just feel like, I don't know if it's like me just getting older, just what I just feel like where is like. You have no Eminems, you have no like Snoop Dogg's, Tupac's, where like they were so distinctive. It talks about voices, like all these guys just sound like they sound exactly alike. These rappers, where the whole like they call like mumble rap, but I really can't. I know they also changed the copyright laws. I can't sample. I know that certain tracks anymore and whatever, so that they're more. Yeah, I guess you still can, but it's too much. It's too costly for them to make any kind of profit from it to sample, but. I feel like there's another big thing that I kind of really miss. Almost like, damn, like.
It's not a genre I really know
Yeah,
well enough
right.
to speak with any kind of authority on. But you do. It's another, I think, industry where you have some older artists keep coming back.
Yeah.
To put out stuff now. The mumble rap. I don't know where the mumble rap comes from, but. If that's the case, that it costs them too much to do samples at this point, it's really good. It then puts more emphasis on producers to be able to come up with
an interesting beat
accompaniment. Yeah,
but it's always that same beat, that little like that trip beat.
I don't know. I mean, I don't listen to much of the new rap or hip hop either to really comment on it. I mean, my favorite of all time is always going to be Biggie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've said that when we talk about rap. I think he was the greatest rapper of all time. But you look at some of the other people, take him out of the equation because, again, just like with Nirvana, short shelf life because he got killed. Same thing with Tupac. I mean, there are all the good rappers you could think of, none of them are going to be new. You're only going to think of older Nate Dogg, Warren G, Need to Regulate. You can't... There's no one new that has that level of... I don't know if it's skill or if it's just that music doesn't work the same way. And people
I think the way as we're rapping, it seems like Rick Beato, I think he said it best. Like music's so commercialized, it's been devalued. You know what I mean? It's so devalued now. Yeah. It used to be such a precious thing, and now it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I listen to music if it's like, like you go into Applebee's for like a dessert. It's in my opinion. Obviously guys like us who love music, but for a lot of it is
back to an era of singles, where like when the Beatles first came out, and there was the era of singles, and they kind of brought back, or at least credited off, and with bringing back the idea of an album. The album became important and went away again, and now nobody cares about a full set of songs. It's all flash in the pans.
Just like it's killed film.
You used to have to make good music because if you wanted someone to hear your song, they had to buy it. So I had to go to Coconuts. And I had to put the stupid headphones on and listen to 15 seconds of the song. Decide if it was good enough for me to put down money to buy that CD. Right? And now I can listen to any song I want and I don't even pay for it. You don't have to. So there's no...
Or an entire catalog for a subscription.
You think about Spotify, you think about Apple Music. You could just put on any song that you want at any time that you want now, right? And you don't think about purchasing it. So it doesn't matter if it's good or bad because I just choose not to listen to it. I already have Apple Music. If I had to go to the store and decide, do I want to pay $25 for this CD right now? How good's it going to be?
Right.
I don't have to decide that anymore. So now who cares if it's good or bad?
I guess you have to. The emphasis seems to now to be on that word viral, which I really hate that word if I hear it one more time in my life. But the idea of making something, just one song, one thing, big enough that it gets enough attention, or wacky enough that everything is just to get enough attention in social media enough for people to flock to then stream it. You don't have to have anything beyond that first thing. They're not putting emphasis into making a whole great album. Just one flash in the pan thing. How can we get this little flash in the pan? I don't know. I don't know what that's going to speak to music as a whole going forward. Because I mean, there's still people that love to make music.
I know.
But what it was, I don't know. Maybe we're out of the golden era.
Yeah.
We're out of the golden era of movies.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're just too old, right? And we just don't appreciate what's out now
Yeah.
the way we appreciate what was out then.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure if you ask someone who's
I know,
15 or 17
yeah.
years old right now what they think of the music, they're going to have a completely different opinion than everything we just said. Are they wrong?
No, that's
Yeah.
true. Listen, I do like a decent amount of modern. There's certain genres that I like. Synthwave is something I like quite a bit, but it's nothing that we have to accept that the concept of the radio is dead.
Yeah.
Like the concept of there being this mass thing that puts out music for people to enjoy, that's dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how people come to new music now, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a section on Apple Music that says new music.
That's
That's really what it is. Like, that's what it is. And I don't listen to that section.
Yeah,
So-
the discovery's gone in music. You know what I mean? That whole like trying to even album covers used to be a big deal. The artwork used to be such a big important deal of an album. Just
that's
like
what I'm
movie
saying
posters
about-
too. They used to be.
Yeah.
How do you do something stupid to get attention?
Yeah.
Like you have to have this social media presence. You have everything that has nothing to do with the music.
Yeah, I know.
So it has
I
to
know.
get
Isn't that
someone in
crazy?
To look at the music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Old man yelling at plants.
Mm-hmm. But Rob, it was a pleasure having you on the show, man, and I just really love this conversation. But where folks find more about you, Rob, your books, your music, you know?
More on that to come. I'm in the process of finishing copy editing the most recent novel that I have. I'll have a website and everything up soon enough. It would be nice to have come on here and actually have something to plug, like
Yeah.
specifically like that. But
Well, you come back on when you do for sure.
Exactly.
yeah, definitely. Which should by the end of this year, that should be done and ready to go. That's my big project for now.
Great. Yeah. And Rob and I's music is still online at tomorrowsfire.com. You can see still on it's on YouTube, all that jazz. tomorrowsfire.com. Have to do the plug, of course. For anything else, Mr. PJ?
No, hopefully our episode goes viral.
Same time, same table.
Have a good one, everybody.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.